What's up, everybody? Hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. The weekend's almost here. Jeff Lloyd is out today, so you get me, unfortunately, hosting Brown 3D, but we are live. We are live, and I do got Bill Sparks. So I bring gifts. I bring friends. We're going to talk about the Browns roster. Welcome in. Please make sure you hit that subscribe and that thumbs up. We're over 10K on YouTube, and we just want to keep growing and doing awesome stuff and whatnot. So thank you guys for being here. Bill, thank you for being here. How you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing good. It's Thursday. We got college football on tonight. We got week 1 this weekend.
We got it on now.
We got it on now. We are 1 week from the return of the NFL. We're going to try to follow up the big NFL news of Micah Parsons.
Yeah, right.
I don't know how you're going to follow that, but we're going to do our best. We're going to talk about this Browns roster and its overall health, man.
It's so funny though that Mike, they just randomly want to throw that Micah Parsons stuff out there 1 week, literally a week before the season, and now we have to see him in the first month. It just that, by the way, just clicked in my head about 30 seconds ago that the Browns now see Micah Parsons week 3.
Yep. Week 3, 1 o'clock kickoff.
I'm around, Fumble. I'm sorry. Starting this Saturday, I will be doing a college football in the OBR draft show at 10 or 11 a.m. each Saturday. I'll be live previewing college football through a draft lens. So, but I was just taking a little bit of time off right before the season, so that's where I've been. We're just gonna throw it out there, and that's great. Let's just trade Micah Parsons real quick. Let's just do that, and then we're going to bounce into it because we're only going to have about 30 minutes on this show, so we're going to keep to that number there.
Yeah.
Was that enough? Did they get enough?
Absolutely, unequivocally not. I mean, you look at the compensation that the Raiders got for Khalil Mack. You talk multiple ones, 2 day 2 selections, and then a day 3 selection for Khalil Mack, and yet you get for Micah Parsons 2 first-rounders and Kenny Clark. And this is not a slight on Kenny Clark at all. He is a very good run-defending defensive tackle and a good force in the middle. But he's also on the wrong side of 30, and there's a high likelihood that by the end of next year, he's a cap casualty for Dallas. So essentially, you're getting 2 first-round picks that will probably end up somewhere between 24 and 32 if Green Bay plays the way they do.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a friend of mine that used to be my boss when I was at Dog Pound Daily. He also covers the Cowboys. And what did he say? I wanted to just bring it up. He referred to Jerry as a lunatic. And he was like, this, he goes, oh, so we were talking about it not being enough. He goes, this goes back to Jerry dragging his feet. He lost a lot of leverage by not trading Parsons during the draft, when there could have been more people driving up the price. And he also allowed not just the Myles Garrett contract, but then allowed the TJ Watt contract. And there's somebody else that I'm missing.
The Max Crosby deal.
Max Crosby's contract. And so it drove it up. Myles Garrett drove it up, and then a couple more times it gets driven up, and you're just like, okay. That's one thing the Browns, I'm with you, Fumble. It is the worst time to make a trade like that.
100%.
100%. And that's one thing. You can say whatever you want about the Browns front office. It's one thing they do. They pay their players early so that shit like this doesn't happen. All right. So we want to talk about the overall health of the roster. Not really react to the 53-man roster, because at this point we've had other shows since 53-man roster's been out. There was a lot of cool stuff that happened here on the OBR streaming network yesterday. You might want to check that stuff out as well. But we want to talk about the health of the roster, and I want to start with something that I want to make sure I don't forget to talk about. Me and you had this conversation. And you said, are you sure they're not rebuilding the future of this offensive line already in the practice squad? So I'm going to give you the floor just kind of to talk about, hey, what's the outlook potentially of this offensive line, not just this year, obviously, but long-term health of that now that they've added some, in my opinion, significant prospects. I won't, because a lot of them are, you've got a lot of young guys and some inconsistent, but guys that are young and have talent. So I'll give it to you to talk about that.
Yeah, so when you look at the names that they added, so obviously you have Logan Brown, the offensive tackle from Kansas. You have Garrett Dellinger, the offensive lineman, probably going to play guard from LSU. You get Cole Strange, a former first-round pick out of New England. He could play center or guard. And when you couple those with, young guys like DeJuan Jones, and then also throw in Tevin Jenkins, who you mentioned, Luke Weipler, Zach Zinter, there is a lot to like here from a youth perspective, and you're totally right. They still do have to develop, but we could be looking at a position of, even as early as next year, DeWand at the left tackle, Logan Brown at the right tackle, and then in the middle, you have some combination of Dellinger, Strange, Weipler, Zinter, between those four for 3 spots, and then someone is your swing. And then you could potentially move off of Teller to a team that's making a run at the Super Bowl. I think like a Buffalo, back to Buffalo type of move for Teller. And now your offensive line is younger, cheaper, faster. And you've done it all in the background while still having vets in the foreground. And I think it's the kind of same conversation that we have with this quarterback room, that, yeah, you have the experienced vet and Joe Flacco out there, but you have guys behind him that are youthful, Dylan Gabriel and Shadur Sanders, that are going to develop and be able to take the reins either later this year or next year. So I think we always talked about it being a rebuilding year. I don't think it's a rebuilding year. I think it's a transition year. We're going to see them try to marry both timelines.
Yes. Yeah. I like the way you said that. Marry both timelines. I absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. Because, we've talked about it before. Andrew Berry's done this before in the draft, where he's drafted things a year early, and you're in this position where everyone's talking about, like, hey, your offensive line is old. It's like, yeah, for all intents and purposes, it's old. Wasn't that great last year. There's some injuries, and a lot of that has to do with the age of it. And it's like the only one you took only pick that you took in the last couple years is center, right? Like, you didn't invest. And now all of a sudden you get a former first round pick in Cole Strange. Don't get me wrong. Cole Strange was very overdrafted.
100%.
I mean, there's that famous Sean McVay press conference where he thought he was going to have a shot at him in the hundreds, and he went in the first round. So, but there's been some good and there's been some bad, but he's got 29 games, I think, of experience at this point. Yeah. So it's like, it's not nothing. I like Garrett Dillinger. I like Logan Brown, but these are all guys that you now put there and you say, hey, watch from these wily old vets. Sit behind these guys. And it's like, are all these guys going to hit? No, that's not how this works. We know that. But say 2 of them do. Say Whippler and Logan Brown hit.
Right. Or
Whippler, DeJuan Jones, and Dillinger's serviceable. He becomes a good backup. Whatever it is. That sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden it's like, okay, we've got some depth. We've got some people that have been in the system now for a year, because I think that really matters when it comes to this. I just think they set themselves up to where they don't have to replace the entire offensive line next year with new guys. That's like, these guys, even if they're just practice squad guys, they at least have some familiarity with the team. They're not just like bringing in free agents and rookies and everything like that. At least you have some guys that are going to compete for spots, and some guys, in my opinion, in Brown and Dillinger and Cole Strange, that are on the practice squad. I think they've got the upside. I think they've got potential there. And I just think that I really like that. I just really like that. You've got Bloomgren, who seems to be a really well-respected coach now in there at the offensive line. I just think that was a really smart game plan to target all of that, because we've talked ad nauseum about how this offensive line is going to look a lot different in 2026. I don't know what the hell year it is. I almost said 2024. So I was like, what year is this? What is next year?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that,
and
I just wanted. Go
And I was gonna say the one thing too is when you think about it, if we get to next year and you trade Wyatt Teller before June 1st, and then you designate Batonio's retirement as a post June 1st cut, right now they're a little under 9 million over the cap, or 9 million under the cap, so they got 9 million to spare. You make those two moves next year, this team is 6 million in the black. They've got money to spare, and that's no restructures.
Yeah.
Just on those two moves. And you have two guys at guard, like we talked about, in Dellinger and Strange, or Dellinger and Tevin Jenkins, or Strange and Tevin Jenkins, some combination.
I keep forgetting. I love Tevin Jenkins too. I just keep. Yeah.
Yeah. So some combination of it, and this team's back to business.
So, okay, let's see over here. And Fumble makes an interesting point. Things go south. Maybe you trade off a starter and let one of these practice squad guys get some reps. I mean, that's how I feel about the quarterback. If things go really, really south, you start letting them quarterbacks, the rookies, play, right? Like,
yeah,
there's a conversation of Strange going to open day 50. Only way I don't think so. I think he could be an elevation if Posick misses.
Yep.
But I don't think it would be opening day. I could see it down the line, but I don't think it would be opening day. I've seen the conversation and I understand it.
Yeah.
So I'm extremely why you bring Bailey back. I mean, you bring back Bailey Zappi. I don't really have too much feelings about it either way, but it's just a guy that's been in your organization. He knows the terminology and he's around there. And I think they just don't feel like Shedeur Sanders is ready. So he's going to be insurance until they feel like he is, because right now they feel good about Dylan Gabriel as the backup. But if Joe Flacco goes down and Dylan Gabriel is your starter, they want someone with more experience over Shedeur, because he's just not there yet.
Yeah. And it's also a scout team quarterback too. You don't want one of these rookies like Gabriel or Shedeur trying to learn different terminology to run someone else's scout team, where you can have Bailey do that. Zappi is your scout team quarterback. He goes out there and he pretends to be a Joe Burrow. He pretends to be a Drake May, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Sanders isn't ready. Zappi would take over if you need a 3 early. And then at some point, once they probably feel better about Shedeur, then they move on for Bailey Zappi. I'm very indifferent about it. I don't care.
You have 16 spots on the practice squad. You're bound to take one.
Yeah, and I always thought with 2 rookies behind Joe, I always thought there had to be a veteran somewhere. I was hoping it was going to be Tyler Huntley. I understand why he wants to go to Baltimore instead. I don't blame him. But that's who I thought it was going to be, just not how it ends up. One other guy I want to talk about practice squad wise, and then we can kind of go, and what I want to do is get like a thumbs up or a thumbs down in terms of like, oh, the health at this position, right, is good or bad, right? So I just want to say, I think Malachi Corley is an awesome practice squad guy. Like, fantastic. I'm going to do a write-up on him probably tomorrow, so it'll probably come out over the weekend or whatever. But like, there's a lot of risk involved in a guy that had a falling out with an organization that has now moved on from him when he was a 3rd-round pick last year. And it's a new regime, so that does happen. That does happen. But I understand the risk, but when you're putting him on the practice squad, like, what risk are you actually taking? You're not. No. You're just not. And this dude was called the Yak God in college, right? Like 4.4, what is it? 4.46, 4.47. He was somewhere in those. And he'll also run your butt right over. And he's just I said this. I called him Deebo Samuel Light. Is what that's what he did at Western Kentucky is what Deebo did in his best years in San Francisco, which means he doesn't run very many routes. Not really like the footwork and the technical side of things. Not great, but a lot of upside. And that's what the practice squad's for. And I think they went out and got a guy in Corley where it's like, if they can find a way to get his head on straight and put it all together, that would be a steal in my mind. And that's what the practice squad is for. We talked about maybe the future of the offensive line's there, or maybe the future, one of the bigger future playmakers is there. So I loved it as a practice squad addition. And overall, what they've done the last few days with the practice squad and the claims they've made, I think the health, especially long-term health of this roster, gets them more interesting.
Yeah. 100%. And you're talking to a guy who had Malachi Corley as a first round graded prospect during his draft cycle. And I said all along that Debo Samuel Light in San Francisco should have taken him at the end of round 1 to replace Debo with a younger version. And now you're putting him in this offense in Cleveland, which the big thing, not only is it a practice squad, but you look at the slot wide receiver position in Cleveland now. You have Jamari Thrash. You have Isaiah Bond, you have DeAndre Carter, you have Malachi Corley as a practice squad elevation, you have Gage Larvadan, all of these guys who can succeed in the slot. Oh, by the way, so can Jerry Jeudy, even though he's an outside guy, he succeeds in the slot. Oh, by the way, Harold Fannin is a power slot guy. The slot position on this offense is completely night and day from where it was last year.
I keep talking about this roster and this wide receiver room that a lot of things have got to go right for them because there's a lack of a ton of proven talent, but there is talent and there is upside. And that's why I'm more excited about the health of this roster than I was a couple of months ago. And part of it is Jamari Thrash and Larvadan just being dudes during camp, which has been really good. Okay. So let's talk about the running back room because we touch on Raheem Sanders. We'll talk on Rocket Sanders coming in. This is a dude that can run in the 4.4s and he's like 220, which is he's thick. You look at him and you're like, hey, that's a big boy. And it's just hilarious. I don't know how he goes undrafted. I'm sorry. I don't know how he goes undrafted. But you're talking about good burst, good speed, good power. Sounds like Quinshon Judkins, doesn't it? He's not quite on that level. Obviously, one guy goes 36th overall. It's interesting because at some point this room is going to have 3 rookies. And, like, that's a lot of cost. Like, we talked about it on the Barking Browns last night, and you and I have talked about it. Like, that's cost control. And that might be the one position where I'm okay with it. I think as a running back room overall, with Ford, Sampson, and Sanders, because I'm pretending that Judkins doesn't exist until he comes back. I think they have everything. They've got power. All 3 of those guys can catch the ball out of the backfield. But I am concerned that none of them can block. None of them can pass protect. So where do you feel overall about the running back position?
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned it. So I wrote up a piece earlier today over at twsn.net on Raheem Rocket Sanders. And I think the big thing that when you look at it, he's going to do a lot of the things that you're going to ask Judkins to do when Judkins returns, in the fact that he's a one-cut style runner. He's a downhill guy, north and south. But you look at his numbers from an athletic perspective in terms of testing. You know, this is a guy who was 6 foot, 217, ran a 4.46, 36.5-inch vertical, 10-inch broad jump, you know, explosive as all get out. And we talk about pass blocking. In his first 3 games with the Chargers, he didn't do a whole lot of pass blocking in weeks 1 or 2, but against San Francisco, he looked really decent as a pass blocker and as a pass protector. And so I think you give him a couple of weeks to get up to speed in that aspect, but you pair him with Dylan Sampson, and now you have a 1-2 punch until Judkins comes back. And when Judkins comes back, you now have 3 rookie running backs that, number one, you can continue to alternate and rotate. So where you only put 125 carries on each guy's legs, can you imagine dealing with fresh Dylan Sampson in the 4th quarter, or dealing with a fresh Quinshon Judkins 2 minutes before halftime? Like that is the epitome of what an analytics driven front office wants to do. Is they loved Nick Chubb. Let's not get it twisted. But Nick Chubb is 1 set of legs. These rookies are 3 sets.
And Jerome Ford is criminally, like, Jerome Ford's the worst aspect of Jerome Ford is that he's not Nick Chubb. Like that's what's always been his problem. But like, you throw all that in there and I'm like, this is not a bad group. Like,
no,
it's a very, very young and unproven group again, which is what I say about the offensive, the whole skill players on this, with the exception of the quarterback, is a lot of it is like, hey, I can see how this could be successful, but I could also see how it could fail because none of these guys are really proven yet, but the talent is there. So the ceiling is there. It's up there.
Yeah, and the other two things.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say he was just asking if I do believe Judkins would be on the roster.
Yeah. I was going to say 100%. I fully expect him. But the other two thing too, they also used 2 practice squad slots on Amani Marshall, who looked really good in the preseason, and Travion Williams, who looked really good in the preseason. So you're talking right there between those two, Sampson and Sanders. That's a staple of 4 running backs that you can use week to week. And then you throw Judkins in there. This team wants to run the ball. They are telling you from this roster construction, they are going to run the ball.
I'll tell you. You say. Can you imagine rotating those 3 guys in? That's what I do on Madden. I'm not even kidding you. I rotate Ford, Sampson, and Judkins in, and like Madden will put up on like when you go into like the depth chart, it'll be like it'll show like where if they're banged up, like yellow or red, like their arms hurting or whatever. If it turns any color, I'm just swapping them out. I'm just putting that fresh body back in there. And I know the real life is different than Madden, but like to me, that's what I do when I play that game is I look at the fact that I've got all these different skill sets that I can pair together to make a really good room. And yeah, I think I feel so much better about this offense than I over long term than I expected to. Could it still go horribly wrong? Of course.
100%.
100%. But like I'm just very interested. I keep looking over at the roster. So let's transition to the defense. Let's talk about the defense for a few minutes before we get out of
Yeah.
here. So just what do you think about I'll just give it to you. Defensive line.
Yeah. So defensive line is like a hockey line, man. You have just body after body after body. You have Myles Garrett. You have Mason Graham. You have Malik Collins. You have Alex Wright. You have Isaiah McGuire. You have Mike Hall when he's healthy. You have Aiden Huntington when he's ready to go. You have Tryon Shoyinka. You have Shelby Harris. You have Cameron Thomas. You are just throwing bodies. Oh, by the way, Julian Akawara is on the practice squad too. Oh, and Sam Kamara and Ralph Holly. There is no shortage. We just talked about the running backs swapping in and out. Jim Schwartz is going to have it looking like a Columbus Blue Jackets game out there in week 1 when he's just swapping bodies back and forth between plays. And everybody's going to be like, he was just, oh, nope, there he, oh, nope, there, oh, nope. It's going to be rough for opposing offensive lines.
Yeah, I look at it. I said this the other day. I'm like, you know what? I'm watching some of this Mason Graham. I went back and watched some Mason Graham's tape in the preseason, and I'm like, is this system, like, was he in the wrong system last year? Like, because this attack, him as a pass rusher has looked even better than I expected. Again, he's a rookie. But he's been getting double teamed and yet still having quite a good effect. I'm very interested to see what that looks like. I think he might have 6 or 7 sacks.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's crazy, but like I don't know. He looks like the real deal. And then, bringing up Schlesinger over here as well.
Yeah.
That defensive line is going to keep Schlesinger clean, especially when he's behind Mason Graham. Like when he's behind Mason Graham and then Alex Wright, of course, and Isaiah McGuire, their run and Cam Thomas, what they can do setting the edge on the outside. And then you can kick, most of those guys can kick inside, and those inside guys, Hayden Huntington can kick outside and play special teams.
Yeah.
When's the last time?
He could play special teams. He could play fullback at this point. Aiden Huntington.
He did play fullback.
He did. He's the athlete that you look at.
Holly got cut today for Bates and Nom Jones.
Okay.
I missed that one.
Yeah, I missed that one too. But either way, I mean,
I figured Dom Jones was coming back. I figured they were going to bring him back.
And I'm glad you mentioned Schlesinger. It is probably the linebacker position is probably the spot I have the most confidence, but also subsequently the least confidence, because I have the most confidence in Schlesinger to be a star, but I have the least confidence in someone else next to him because Diabate's banged up. Then you have Bush and Baker. Then you have, I call him EMA because I'm not about to butcher Mascarenas Arnold. And then you have Edufan on the practice squad. So you have Carson, who's a star in the making at linebacker, and I've said all along he's going to garner Defensive Rookie of the Year votes. You can clip that one, but I'm concerned about who's next to him. Is my concern.
I'm pretty happy with Diabate when he's healthy. I keep hearing people talk about Jerome Baker though. Like I keep hearing people kind of gas up Jerome Baker a little bit and be like, hey, you know, this veteran, like in this system, like he's like one of those guys where he's like the jack of all trades, master of none. Like I think he's a good run defender, a good coverage linebacker. I don't think he's great necessarily at either thing, and I don't think he's like a freaky athlete or anything. But like I think that, you know, paired with Schlesinger, I think he'll be fine. I'm really disappointed because I really like Winston Reed, and then gets hurt.
Yeah.
But you know, we'll see what happens there. Yeah,
and Nathaniel Watson too.
Yeah, Nathaniel Watson. But man, EMA kind of, he's a wild again another wild card that they have that has shown a lot of flashes and a lot of potential, but it's like, right? There's like what, 12 rookies on this team?
Yeah, I was gonna say you have McMillan, Schlesinger, EMA, Graham, Addington, so 5 on defense, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on offense, so 13 if you count Quinshawn.
And you've got to count, technically, you've got to count Andre Schmidt.
Yeah.
The kicker. Which, by the way, thank you, Andrew Berry, for not letting your ego get in the way of cutting somebody you extended in Dustin Hopkins, because it's just not there right now mentally.
No.
And I don't know if it'll ever get back there. And then some people are really upset that he signed the contract. I don't know anybody who was mad when Dustin Hopkins signed that contract. Yeah, it's such a crazy
yeah, he had such a great year. They would have been, if he hadn't gotten paid, everybody would have been, oh, it's the same old Browns, can't evaluate talent.
Yeah, I'd have been furious. But, like, I got to give him credit where credit's due. Like, I know some people will say, I can't give you credit when you caused the problem and you solved it. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. But, like, did he really, like, did he really create a problem?
Yeah, but here's the thing, too. How many times have we seen in the history of this team since 99 where they have a player that is actively struggling and everybody outside the organization can see it, and they just roll right on through the season? We've seen it happen. Even in Andrew there you go. I wasn't going to say it, but you did. But exactly that. They said, look, we messed up. It happens. We took a swing and we failed, so we're going to move on. They moved on from Hopkins. Eventually probably going to move on from Watson, I would hope so. That's kind of where that shows an organization that can reflect inward on itself and say, we have made a mistake here. That's the sign of a good organization, because you know who does that? Philly, Buffalo,
Philly
Kansas
does
City.
it all the time. I mean, look what Philly, they just traded for Kenyon Green and they cut him because they were like, nope. Former first round pick. They need a new guard because they lost Mekhi back then. Like what? Dickerson's
he's still injured, but they picked up Willie Lampkin, and they said, look, we got Willie Lampkin. He's clearly better than what we have in Green. Green, we know we traded for you, but you're gone.
Is Willie Lampkin not the perfect Philadelphia Eagle offensive lineman?
I've said all along they were going to run the push this season with Willie Lampkin and the Jalen Hurts role, and we're all going to look stupid. They're going to give that man the ball. It's going to be like some power push or something is what they're going to call it.
Well, it's going to be like when Kevin kept doing it with Harrison Bryant, and it worked, and you were just like, whatever, dude. Like, whatever.
Good luck trying to stop it.
So, any final thoughts on the overall health of the roster as we wrap this thing up?
I will tell you people this, it is going to be a bumpy ride in 2026 because there's a lot of ifs and buts, and if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have Sundays. Yeah. But this team has a brighter future than you will hear. Yes. And I've said all along this is a 7-win team, But let me tell you, if I have a 7-win team with these young guys, and oh, by the way, we have 2 first-round picks coming in next year's draft, that's going to be a pretty deep class at the top. I'm just saying, there's a lot of upside here.
I think I said at 9. I think I said at 9 right now. We'll see what they look like week 1. We'll see how it all starts to come together. How do all these pieces play together? Let me see that. But one thing I will say is the offense looked like an NFL offense on Saturday, the starters. But yeah, Ty Sox, you're right. A lot of upside on the practice squad. There's just a lot of upside out there. So it's going to be a lot of like, hey, can that upside do its thing? So
yeah.
Isn't Lampkin 5? He is, yeah.
100%.
Not very big. Great leverage. Great leverage. Bill, real quick, I appreciate you very much for jumping on with us today in the fill-in role. Can you tell everybody where they can find your stuff?
Yeah, so you can find all of my content over on X at Spark Scouting. Also across all the socials, TikTok, Threads, Instagram, and Substack. You search Spark Scouting, you'll see my lovely mug pop up. Also a writer and analyst for the Right Way Sports Network. It's TWSN.net. I cover the NFL, NFL Draft, and the Cleveland Browns. Wrote a piece earlier today on Raheem Rocket Sanders, and I've got one coming out at 8 o'clock tonight talking about 2 Auburn wide receivers that could change the game tomorrow night in Auburn versus Baylor.
Eric Singleton
and Cam Coleman.
I'm very excited about Eric Singleton, if you can't tell. All right, guys, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, that thumbs up on YouTube, hit that little bell. I will be back on Saturday, 10 a.m. for the OBR draft show. So tomorrow's Friday. I don't know which shows are on tomorrow. I'm really bad with what's going on our network right now. I'm sorry. Well, we appreciate you guys. We will see you guys again next time. Until then, go Browns.
Go Browns.